Hey everyone, we got some big news again about Season of Mastery, so I figured I'd get a few of my friends together and have a bit of a chat about it podcast style, so please enjoy the following chat. Just to let you know, my microphone, I've been having a few audio issues lately, and it just crackles every now and again. It's really not a big deal through this video, but some of you might pick up on it. I know about it, I'm working on it, so just bear with me. We'll get there in the end. But it's a really good chat. I hope you enjoy this. Look, guys, if you're looking for more Season of Mastery type conversations, I've got a Discord, I've got a Twitter account, all the usual shit. If you just look around in links, you'll find it eventually. Like, come and have a chat with us. We've actually got a decent sized community that discuss the game all the time. The podcast can be found on Spotify. The link is in the details right here. The YouTube channel isn't updated that often. Obviously, I've been doing it more often lately, but there's hundreds of episodes of this show dating back 4 years with really good stuff in there that you can go back to and listen right now. And you can talk to people who listen to this show regularly about Season of Mastery right now. They're really dedicated players. They're keen. They're interested. They love to talk WoW. Come and hang out with us. We're really good fun. And enjoy the following conversation. We'll see you all later. Yet another huge news drop, and these things are just flying so thick and fast. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Are we talking about the same Blizzard here, quite frankly? And we'll get into all of that. First and foremost, let's not fuck around. I have rallied the troops, and I mean the Australians. And you guys know that every now and again, I like to get the Aussie crew together. And I just figured, this news dropped a few hours ago. America and Europe went to sleep. And quite frankly, we've had enough of them, of late. Fucking North and those guys, they've spoken more than enough on the show, and we love them to death, but let's get the Aussies in here. And it wouldn't be an Aussie show without these three lovely people. And we're doing a town hall, everyone, so if you guys listening at home want to join in, you know the drill, put your hand up. I'll get you in here and we'll get you talking eventually. Alenia, mate, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Get out, Americans. The Aussies are here.
The Australians are coming. The Australians are coming. That's Paul Revere running around. Oh, God, that's probably lost on you fucking bastards. But anyway, Hunk, mate, did you get my Paul Revere reference?
Oh, I did not, mate.
You're killing me.
You're going to have to explain it to me and everybody else, I think. I usually get your references. This one's a bit obscure.
When you and I do the history podcast, the drunken history podcast, which everyone's been hanging out for, we'll go through that one. All right. Mate, thanks so much for joining us. You're fresh out of the shower telling us a story about how you epically blow dried your hair, which I can't wait to hear more about. But until then,
fantastic.
You had the next guest on the edge of their seat as you were telling that tale of blow drying your hair. Tito, mate, how are you?
I am good, ready to talk. Classic.
You are hearing me talk, the Al Gore doll. Very good. All right.
I get nervous. I don't know.
No.
It's all good. Look, guys, just before we get started with the WoW stuff, and you all know that we're going to get heavily into it, I want to break the ice because Hunk's going to tell us all a story, not about blow drying his hair, but about a little gift package that came through. So as you might have heard on the most recent episode, North dropped at the start a little, note about the fact that I'd sent him some grog because he's put in a lot of appearances on the show now over the last 3.5 years, many hours putting in, content for me, which I'm incredibly grateful for. I'm grateful for everyone who's ever been on the show, but I've sent, small gifts out to people who have really put in a shitload of hours for me. And I'm so happy for them to always put their hand up to come back. But Hunk sort of recently achieved that goal. And I thought, look, I should send something to Hunk, and I've sent things to a bunch of people lately, and I really do need to, sit down and look at the list and probably send things out to more people, quite frankly. But Hunk achieved the many hours on Countdown to Classic achievement, and so I thought I'll send him some grog. So I did that, organized through his local bottle shop to have something delivered to him while we were playing Final Fantasy the other night, and I got a text basically saying, your delivery could not be delivered tonight. And they had some snafu and I was really upset. And I was like, fuck, because I'd written this lovely note to go along with Hunk's present, his grog. And I was devastated that he wouldn't get to receive the note that night. But he said, not to worry. I'm sure I can go in and pick up the grog in store the next day. And I go, great. I wonder whether or not they'll pass on the note still. So the next day, the next evening, I ask him, mate, did you go and pick up that grog? And he proceeds to tell me the following story. Now, Hunk, I'll throw it over to you. If I could ask you to get the note handy so you can read it verbatim back for people as well. But to pick it up from here when you venture forth into your local Dan Murphy's bottle shop.
Okay, so I've got the note here. I always keep it in my breast pocket. It's very special to me. So I've walked into Dan Murphy's at the Gap, and I've gone to the counter, and the kid at the counter said, young man at the counter has, I've showed him like the little text I've got from Dan Murphy's saying, I've got a gift to collect. He's like, oh, a gift to collect. He's like, had a look. He's like, oh, and he's got on the loudspeaker and gone, this is a gift for blah. And so this gentleman's like hustled out from the back, over to the counter, and there was like the guy who was serving me, and then there was a lady near him. And he's looked at my text, and then he's looked at me, and then he's gone, oh, and he's gone, are you sure this is for you? And I said, yeah, this is for me. And he's like, oh, okay. And so he's like typed it into the computer and like looked at me again. And then he's giving me my phone back and scurried out the back. Now I'm starting to think this is a little odd. There's something fishy going on here. And he's come back out with like the bag and the gift. And he's gone, are you sure this is for you? And I went, yes. And I've taken the bag off him, and like the girl at the counter's like sort of like looking at me, and the other guys look at me, and I go, no, this is very strange. And all right, thank you. And I've left and I've walked out.
Yeah. Every staff member in the place is eyeballing you.
Yeah. All three of them were eyeballing me. And it was like, I had a distinctly like odd, like feeling, odd impression. I was quite unsettled. I was like, this is a very strange interaction at the store. It was the first time someone had ever collected a gift ever from this place. So yeah, I've got that. I've driven away, and then later on when I got back to work, I found the note.
The note. Now, before you read it, we should just say Hunk and I play a lot of Final Fantasy together, Final Fantasy 14. So we run dungeons most nights of the week together, for context.
Yeah, and this note, it's on quite a nice card, and someone at Dan Murphy's would have had to have printed this note out on the card and put it in the bag and tied the ribbon around it. So here's how it reads.
And also Hunk plays a healer.
I do play a healer. Last night was unforgettable. I know there were 6 other people in the room as it was happening, but you healed me in ways that I didn't think another man could. I promise I'll do more damage next time. Milkshake.
Winky face.
Winky face.
I think the winky face sells it.
I think, well, my local Dan Murphy's now thinks I'm I host orgies, I guess.
I guess so. You're a man amongst town.
Now, when he kept saying, are you sure this is for you? I'm a little offended that he thought I'm not capable.
Yeah, like what? You don't have it in you? What's wrong with that?
Like, what's he saying? What's he saying there?
Yeah.
Look, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I will admit that. But,
Fucking you look like you know how to party.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah,
you know what to do, mate.
If he can see my hair right now.
The shampooed and conditioned hair.
It's because you hadn't conditioned your hair yet, isn't it?
What's that? Sorry, Tito?
It's because you hadn't conditioned your hair yet.
Exactly. I was still using the old conditioner. Oh,
yeah, that's
right. Very good.
So, yeah, that was incredibly embarrassing. I can never go back.
I'm glad. That's okay. I'm glad to have completely blown up your local bottle shop for you. I'm so devastated that you can't wander down the road now to pick up a 6-pack. But look, mate, we'll get there. We'll sort it out. Thank you so much for telling that story. I hope people do enjoy that one. But look, guys, what a segue into this epic news that we got today. That just goes hand in hand with all of these notes. Absolutely. Look, I wanted to start with you, Elenia, because I think that, guys, we're going to be talking about the couple of blue posts really that dropped to, well, actually, no, sorry. It was the blue post plus some, quote unquote leaks that dropped today that we'll discuss first and foremost. We've got a lot of stuff to go through. We've got, the molten core and Onyxia testing from a few days ago that I didn't get to touch on in the latest episode of the show because that was all recorded before it happened. But let's go through the blue post first before we get to all that other stuff, considering it's the most fresh, it's the most relevant. Elenia, you, if people aren't aware, are firmly entrenched in the hardcore classic WoW community. If you have been living under a rock, this is a play mode that's been popularized over the last couple of years, where you play on a server, mostly PvE servers, as Elenia has educated me today. Some, insane people do play on PvP servers, but they try to go from 1 to 60 without dying, and just, obviously for bragging rights, feels great when you do it. Whole community, huge community built up around this concept, and they've been going from strength to strength. Now, they were able to finagle a little bit of support in the last couple of months from Blizzard with regards to Season of Mastery, and we're starting to see the breadth of which Blizzard is willing to support the hardcore community. And I think it's been really nice to see exactly how far they have gone with it, because we got more information about it today. I haven't talked about it much myself because I'm not a hardcore player, guys. I would make it to level 15. I would die. I would just lose my fucking mind in a meltdown that would get me banned off Twitch. It's not for me, but I love and support the community that does it. Elenia, you're here. Let's hear from you. This stuff that we heard today, which seems to be like all these achievement tags that you can get from being a hardcore player, make it to 60, don't die to Rag, don't die to Nerf, and clear it all the way through without fucking dropping. This must be really exciting for you guys. Tell me all about it.
Well, to put it in context, the hardcore community has been around for a couple of years, and the hardcore Discord has just shy of 13,000 members at the moment. It's extremely active. And on Classic Era, which is the main one that people are playing hardcore on right now, we have at any given time about 3,000 people between NA and EU that are actively trying hardcore mode. In fact, I'd probably say about 95% of the era servers are made up of hardcore people as we speak. And I think it just goes to show that given the opportunity, people will play the game in a social and enjoyable manner if you take away the get to 60 and raid component of playing the game. So what happened about 2 months ago, I'd say, Cargo's, who, hardcore is his baby. He started it up, and Graze for Days, who's been there from the start, they wanted to take hardcore to the next level, because we'd had hardcore out, in a mode for people to play in era and in BC for some time, and it was time for that new challenge. And naturally, being a community-based challenge, it made sense to make the next step a community-based call to action. And the call to arms this time was to see if a 40-man raid composed of hardcore characters, that is people that have leveled to 60 without dying and still have that death equals delete requirement through, gearing up, getting their previous and getting into Molten Core, could actually get all the way through Molten Core and take down Rag. And it really ignited interest in the community. And we saw like a really big surge of people wanting to come in and be part of that. Right now we are looking at a team of people on the North American server planning to push out a hardcore guild to do the Road to Ragnaros, and we've got hundreds of people that have signed up for that, and we have the same happening on EU as well, which is really exciting to see, because I think there's so many streamers involved. We also have some big streamers involved, Cargo's obviously being one of them. There's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes to see what Blizzard might be able to bring to the party for the hardcore community. And this was something that they had mentioned to us behind the scenes that they would be willing to look at doing, providing some sort of in-game support for us, which was, I've given Blizzard a hard time in the past, and no doubt I will at stages give them a hard time in the future, but I'm also going to give credit where credit is due. I really, really appreciated that they would actually do something for a portion of the WoW community that would actually allow people to, to try this out and have some sort of official Blizzard support. So that was really nice. So when this latest blue post came out, we were excited that we got, the buff, in the game in regards to Soul of Iron. To see these additional things coming in where Blizzard was looking to bring in achievements, for people that had managed to retain Soul of Iron through some of these raids. That was just incredible to see. Perhaps not quite so excited to see that they're buffing the raid because we're going to be pretty horribly undercooked going into MC. But let's face it, hardcore is not designed to be the most sensible of things to do in the game. So it kind of makes sense that, if we're going to have a crack at a raid, then we may as well do it with some sort of crazy difficulty set in by Blizzard. It's been great.
Mate, I've got a few follow-up questions and I'll get the boys involved as well soon. But just first and foremost, it had to have been a godsend to you, because if people aren't aware, and I know you wouldn't necessarily, proffer this yourself because you're a very humble person and that's why we love you, but you do a shitload of work for the hardcore community. It's my understanding that you put in a lot of hours verifying people's runs, going through logs, looking at, did this person actually die or not? Is this legit? Do we count it? What kind of appeals process are we going through? It'd be a fucking nightmare, to be honest with you. But you are happy to do that for the community, and I'm sure there are others that put in the work as well. But with Blizzard basically bringing in this buff, and like you've just said, working kind of hand in hand with the hardcore community, not just relieving you of work, but just to have official, instantly verifiable information on whether or not someone has gone down. That just clears the pathway to everything, doesn't it?
It helps a lot. At the moment, the way that the Soul of Iron works is that if you have it by the time you get to 60, we know for sure that you haven't died. But we do allow, contingencies. Like if your internet goes out, we don't want to penalize people because their power went out. That's not fair. If you get DC'd and you die while you DC'd, we can have a look at your run and allow you to keep going. We provide a lot of, I suppose, fair play mentality behind the scenes for people that want to try it out so that they can continue to go and challenge themselves in the game without being punished. But you're right. If they can, show that they still have, Soul of Iron by level 60, then we know that they haven't died.
Too easy. Go, Tito.
Well, my understanding was that there's a little bit more to, the achieving, or to making up what is required to get a verified hardcore character, not just the death, right? Isn't there the solo self-found type scenario which isn't accounted for with these, with what Blizzard's doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's designed that, you need to be self-reliant. You need to be in the game, in the world. You need to know what you can get from your vendors. You need to scavenge what you can get from your quests and what drops from the mobs. You can't use the auction house. You can't mail yourself stuff. It takes away all the, I suppose you'd say to some degree, the casual boosting of being able to just gear your ult up. It is designed that, it puts the role play, I guess, to some degree back into the game in that you are a level 1 noob, you've got no money, you've got no gear, and you need to scavenge what you can get out in the world, what you can craft, what you can collect in terms of professions, and use that to make your way to 60 without dying.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of nice to have that support from Blizzard, but the bottom line is you still have a lot of work ahead of you, don't you, Elenia, to verify people actually made it there, not just without dying, but with actually doing it the hardcore way?
Well, one of the nice things about the community being so large is that we have a lot of very capable people in it. So we've got a verification team now that I look over that's got 10 people in it. They do the verifying. And we also have a number of people currently working in the background to create a new version of our hardcore add-on that will actually do a fair chunk of that, observing in the background, verifying work for us. So ideally, we won't need to have as many man hours in the future Fingers
Thank
crossed.
goodness for that.
And I can sleep once again.
Good stuff. Yeah, I was remiss to leave out all the rules outside of just don't die. There's a lot more to it, as Elenia sort of alluded to. But if you are interested, Elenia, just let people know where they can go if they're interested. You mentioned the Discord already.
Yeah, if you look for the Classic Hardcore Discord, hopefully it's not too much of a shout out this early on, but if you go to my Twitter, which is Alenya Classic, ALENYA Classic, I always have links to the Discords on there as well. Or you can just hit me up and I'll just drop you a note. But yeah, just climb on in. It's great.
Too easy. Guys, I'll throw it to you and just ask, look, I mean, I think this is fantastic. I'd love to know your thoughts. People are already raising things like, oh, this kind of looks like achievements. I don't know about that. I don't put them in the same category. I don't give a fuck. I think it's, if people enjoy this, give it to them. Why not? There's obviously a decent enough crowd that wants it. It's not, it's still a relatively niche crowd in terms of the overall size of perhaps the Season of Mastery players, but I'm glad that Blizzard is having a bit of fun with this. And I've got no problem with someone getting a buff or a title or whatever that says, whatever it says. I've forgotten it, Lenny, you'll know, Lord of the fucking core or whatever it might be. It's something better than that. I can't remember. Hunk, Tito, what do you guys think?
I think the achievement title was I'm really amazing.
Hunk and Tito, go for it, guys. Any issues with this? You think it's like the half achievement that you're totally fine with or not?
Look, I think this is me. I think achievements are a good addition to the game. I like it. I think as a seasonal approach, it could be a neat way of having some account-wide progression that can carry over between Seasons of Mastery, give people more reasons to keep playing, keep logging in. I'm a little bit of an achievement hunter myself. So I've got absolutely no problems with achievements coming into Classic if they're looking at iterating on it and adding new things as they seem to be. I think it's a natural step if they want to have progression that carries over season to season.
Yeah, I really. Sorry, you go, Tito.
I'm in more or less the same boat. I think it's far enough removed, or the achievements that they're adding are far enough removed from, kind of the standard gameplay min-max tropes where you can't
league achievement or else.
Yeah, exactly. It's not far enough removed from that it's fine. It's more kind of, fun achievements or novelty achievements, which go for your life. I'm not really fussed. Yeah,
it's Classic. It's not like people are going to be saying link cutting edge Naxxramas to get an invite to a pug. It's Classic. Yeah.
If that was on the cards, I would actually, if those kind of achievements were on the cards, I would not be feeling it. But they are announced at the moment, they're just fun things. It's neither here nor there really to the mechanics or the gameplay.
And I'm a big fan of hardcore. Whenever there's an option to play hardcore in a game, I'll often try it out. Path of Exile, I only really have fun when I'm playing on hardcore, even though I'm terrible and die all the time. But yeah, so I think it's a natural way of showing, if you do a hardcore run to level 60, or you get a Ragnaros kill without dying, that's a massive achievement. And I am fine with you having some kind of achievement that carries over season to season after we go into Season of Mastery 2 or whatever, whatever the next thing is.
The quickening.
Season of the quickening.
Oh God.
You're a degenerate.
I've put it ass backwards and I've started talking about what was effectively a leak. I hate using that word. It fucking makes my skin crawl. But these data mined pieces of information is where we got these achievement type titles or tags from. So that's what I've been talking about. This only happened about 3 or 4 hours ago. So it's dead set hot off the presses. Along with that, we might as well talk about the information that came from the same, source. And we learned 2 other big things, which are more than likely coming our way in terms of, the BRD pickpocketing farm and also some potential Moradon stuff. We'll go through the BRD thing first, because I think this is not so quietly fucking huge. This is really, really significant, not only in and of itself, but as a greater indication of Blizzard's perhaps wider ethos coming into Season of Mastery. they've basically announced, well, not, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Has not announced anything. It's been data mined, a thief type, I want to call it a debuff. I don't know. Something happens when, we don't know what the threshold will be, but it seems to be the case that once you have pickpocketed X amount of mobs, whatever X will be, the mobs now become aware of your presence and don't drop loot in terms of pickpocketing. So obviously goes to combat the, army of bots that were lining up to come for Season of Mastery in terms of rogue pickpocketing that were just an absolute plague through classic. I am really, really shocked and excited to read about this. I am fucking floored. I cannot believe it. And one of the most popular comments coming through from all the people today were like, is this the same Blizzard we're talking about? Like, what? I feel like I'm living in like bizarro lands. Like, what is going on? I'll throw it out to the crowd now and just get your thoughts, guys. Look, also everyone listening in the audience in the town hall, if you want to put your hand up and you want to have your say on this one, please guys, it's a come one, come all policy. Just press your hands and I'll get you in here, but you're more than welcome to listen in as well. Because first in, best dressed, how fucking huge is this?
I'm so excited. So excited. They're making like aggressive changes to certain things like possible botting problems that we've had. It feels like Blizzard's gone like they're like an indie developer or like a team of modders. I don't know.
Yeah,
this is wild.
It's definitely something I'm not used to from them, but it's good. It's definitely got a good feel to it. Yeah. With the specific fix though, I think it's great that they're working on it, but with the rogue thing in BRD, I imagine you just reset the instance and they go back in and then it's sorted. So, and that debuff I imagine would disappear and they can just keep on pickpocketing. But I mean, it would mean that they can't just sit in there the whole time pickpocketing. So I think there's a little bit more to it and there's still ways around it from my understanding of it, but I think it's great that they're trying.
Yeah, I mean, if we do a little bit of light sort of handkerchief or bar napkin, I should say, theory crafting here, what would be the magic number? Like, it really, I haven't even given any thought to this of when I say X amount of mobs, what should X be in terms of, okay, you've pickpocketed 20, time to get the fuck out of here. I don't know. I'm just throwing random numbers out there. What do you guys think?
I think this is specifically mobs or bots were just sitting in there and never leaving. And so this will combat how easy it was for bots to just sit in BRD and never leave and just continually pickpocket, because eventually the inventory respawns in the mobs that they've already pickpocketed. They can just go back to it. Is that how the bots were working up until now?
I'm not a botter, so I'm not sure.
I thought they had a specific route that they were resetting, but I know it does pretty sure it does respawn after a certain while, but I'm pretty sure they were just going out and resetting.
Yeah, so I
suspect.
I think this will just happen again, right?
They dial, I presume, you can have your pickpocket resisted, right? Because they die a lot, because I remember seeing so many rogue ghosts running into BRD. So that's sort of got nothing to do with anything. Good one, Josh. But anyway,
I think it's relevant.
I just think, when we talk about the actual amount of gold that you earn on this farm, this is the one thing we were discussing in the Discord. If you're into Season of Mastery, guys, and you're not in the Countdown to Classic Discord, get in there. What are you doing? People are talking about it every day. But, the farm is sort of legendary for not being overly efficient if it's actually a player doing it as opposed to a bot running 24/7. Ballpark figures of somewhere in the, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, guys, 30 to 50 gold per hour range.
Yeah, that's right.
30 to 50 if you're lucky.
It's funny. 40, it's something that when you put a little bit of a twist on it, our dear friend Jay actually said, friends of his will be gutted because they do the run legitimately, where they might kill some bosses, blow some cooldowns, go get coffers and everything, and they've turned it into 100 gold an hour farm. And he put the video in the Discord to show people who weren't aware of this. I didn't know about this, and I was like, oh, well, fucking there you go. So he's upset that some of his mates won't be able to do that anymore. But as I sort of said, I think it is it would be a negligible amount of the community that actually did this run legitimately over bots doing it 24/7. And sadly, I think probably if you ask those players as well, it's a hit you take for the greater good, isn't it?
Well, so I actually don't think I'm not sure if it will affect them. BBR just DM'd me. He was saying it's 7 minutes and their pockets reset. So the reason it was so beneficial for bots is they could just sit in there. It's no real coding required. They just do a loop, pickpocket forever. So even though it's 30 gold an hour, they're doing it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It adds up. They can do it on 10 accounts or whatever. So this nerfs that. I still think you can do the coffer farm. I don't think it'll affect that. I don't imagine that the debuff is going to hold over a reset. So it'll just reduce the effectiveness that these bots are having, and make it a little bit harder. And then they can actually get killed when they step out, and that kind of thing. I don't know if it's going to stop the coffer farm, which is a good thing. Players do the coffer farm.
I suspect that it's going to act like an area of effect debuff on the actual player. I guess a la Death Knights when you go into Stormwind for the first time on, the old retail. Because it says, it says, given the recent string of thievery, enemies around you have stashed most of their belongings elsewhere. So to me, that says that, if they introduce some sort of area of effect that debuffs you as a player, then you can just go wherever, but you just can't pickpocket anything.
Yeah, the debuff should be like, you smell like shit. Enemies around you are aware of your presence, or you smell like a fucking bot. I love it. Look, it got me thinking on a grander scale about, obviously everyone's biggest worry about Season of Mastery is the bot problem. It's the problem that Blizzard will never address. People bashing their heads against walls trying to get Blizzard to say something publicly. They just won't. It's just one of those things. But in seeing this approach from Blizzard in tackling the bot issue head on without actually sort of explicitly saying we have a bot problem, I'm now wondering what's left on the table for the bots, because we remove BRD pickpocketing. We've also already sort of gone after the mage stuff. Now, I feel stupid for asking this. You guys will have to very quickly tell me. I know there were mage bots in Moradon, but I don't know what they were doing. Were they able to farm Moradon?
Were there bots in there?
I swear I've seen videos of bots going in and out of Moradon. Maybe I'm going crazy.
My understanding was it was the boosting. It wasn't bots in Moradon.
Well, that's what I thought too, but I've definitely seen videos of people dragging bots out off the cliff over the entrance or something. Anyway, someone will know. Mages can single pull the purple side, but is that bots, Terrell? I'm not sure. Anyway, look, forget it. They've had their pickpocketing taken away. They've got the Black Lotus thing, I guess, going for them. What else, with all the changes that Blizzard have made so far, have we slowly chipped away at the bot issue, or is it now, oh no, we've only taken away the pickpocketing?
I think there's that many other farms that were discovered and used, but they never made it to the forefront because they weren't max efficiency, if that makes sense. So the other lesser efficient farms will just start popping up, and it'll have to be a constant vigilance from Blizzard to watch it and to adjust it as needed. But yeah, I have, from these recent posts, I have faith that they may actually be doing that, because I think there's that many farms that just weren't used because they weren't as efficient that, there might have been 5 or 10 gold less per hour that'll just start being used. And then hopefully they can make some adjustments to make it unusable as they come up.
Okay.
I think.
Yep, go, Lenya.
I think for me the biggest change is not so much the botting issue itself per se, but that Blizzard is actually actively working towards trying to quash the worst of it in the game, and that I think speaks well for what they may do with other bot activity that may crop up in Seasons of Mastery.
Well, let's go down that little tangent for a second here, because I'd love to pick your guys' brains on this. I know we're all going to sit here and say how positive things are, and this is great to hear, but Blizzard has been a certain way through the lifetime of Classic. I've been hypercritical of them. Elenia, as you said, you've been critical of them in the past. I think everyone is quite, has sort of been down on the overall review of the management of WoW Classic in terms of how involved Blizzard was. I used to make jokes that they were the dad that went for cigarettes and never came back once the game came out. It is a very odd situation right now. And yeah, Tito, you probably put it best with how surprised you were when we're getting blue posts like not just weekly, almost like a couple of times a week. We're getting changes that the community actually asked for and are being celebrated. Really, really positive stuff. And it blows my mind when I sort of sit here and I don't want to be a dick about this and I'll still keep things positive, but just like, gee, who would have thunk that, and I know that's not a word, whatever, but who would have believed that an involved PR team speaking to their player base, taking feedback on board and giving sort of majority desired changes and just talking to us and making us feel heard and valued as customers would result in positive PR for your product? Who would have fucking thought that would happen? Like, I can't believe it's taken them this long to actually get on board the train of doing this. Now, I hope it continues. Time will tell. But just on the note of this almost being a different Blizzard, even though it's the same Classic team, have you guys felt this is, things are going to change and maybe the multiple seasons of Mastery we might get really give you hope for the future, or it might just be a flash in a pan moment?
It definitely feels like the language they're using in these posts, it doesn't feel like the lawyers have gone through them, and the way they're speaking in these posts, it feels like the players it's stuff that players would talk about, and it definitely feels a lot more casual, a lot more on our level, if that makes sense, instead of trying to be lofty and legal about it.
I feel like whatever Blizzard does, like particularly at the moment, is calculated. And probably fairly controlled, if not scripted, but even so, it's definitely the communication that we want. We want to feel like the developers know the game and they're playing the game. They're not these shadowy figures who are just hanging out in the Cosby suite while the rest of us try to make the game better. So yeah, I think it's a great direction to head in. I'm excited about the game again. Sorry, Lynn.
Oh, you're good, Nate. I believe that if you are prepared to be critical of a team or the people in the team, then you need to be prepared to give them praise too when it's deserved. And I think for the way that they're trying to change their spots and listen to the community and deliver on some of these things, they do deserve some praise for sure.
Absolutely, and that's something that I've definitely championed on the show. Even though it hasn't happened often, you have to live by that sort of edict of credit where credit is due. And what would be the point of Blizzard trying to please us if when we are pleased, we don't vindicate that pleasure, if we don't give them the pat on the back and say, thank you, that's really nice of you, even though it does feel like there aren't that many thank yous going around. You've got to encourage this kind of behavior, saying, yes, this is what we want. Good job. Please, more of this. That's excellent. I'm really, really stoked. I'm feeling really good about Season of Mastery. So I think a few other people are getting sort of brought around as well, given what we're seeing. But guys, the last thing on this data mining little venture was I don't know whether to call it a debuff or not, a status that will happen in Moradon, which is to do with Princess Theredras. And people are speculating whether or not this will be actually something that goes on Theredras herself, if you are looking to farm her, probably for Blade of Eternal Darkness, or if it's something that simply gets placed on the mobs when they get their roots immunities and everything that kicks off with the timers that we discussed in the last episode of the show if you're mage farming. So the blessing of Theredras is something that has been found which will apply these speed changes, like a 50% speed buff and immune to snares and roots. Look, hypothetically, as more people than not are speculating, if this is something that is being applied to Princess herself, how interesting is this that might be another thing they're potentially cracking down on, people going in just to farm Princess? I'm a bit in the dark on this one, no pun intended, but you know, outside of Blade of Eternal Darkness, I'm not really sure how people interact with Princess. Can someone talk to me a bit more about this one?
Early days, you buy the Blackstone ring. You can for melee classes from her. Outside of that,
of course, yeah.
Outside of that, it's just the blade, and I think there's not enough reason to keep the blade away from people, to put in this whole thing. So I think it's probably going to be more for the mobs in Moradon, personally.
Yeah, I'd lean towards it being the mobs, like when a mage goes in and tries to get funky, I'd lean towards this being the name of the debuff that's the buff that's placed on them where they're resisting all your shit and getting quicker. If it is Princess, I'd be surprised. But as I say, you know, sort of, we'll just have a think about it too. But like Hunk, on Blade of Eternal Darkness itself, the guys were getting stuck into a little bit of light debate in the Discord earlier about if this is the case. Do we need to keep Blade of Eternal Darkness away from being farmed? I mean, I would have thought with the mage nerfs that are coming in, its desirability would have been fucking, you know, shot. How do you feel about it? Opened up a conversation about if these are the steps we're taking to sort of, you know, killing off instance farming in a way for everyone. How do you feel about items and bosses and instances sort of being taken off the table in terms of any kind of farm?
Like there is an argument to be made that Blade of Eternal Darkness is phase 1 BIS for some classes, just because of the mana return. But I mean, its stats are not great when you start getting into like tier 2 and things like that, because you sacrifice a lot of damage. And in terms of like nerfing bosses to stop people like solo farming bosses, I like chase items. I think the idea of having like a rare drop item on a boss that you can kind of like repeatedly farm, and I've got no problem with that. I think that's fun. It gives people more things to do. So okay. Yeah, I figured this nerf, like what Tito said, it has to be about the mobs and the mage boosting. Like I can't see enough people farming Princess aside from the ring early on in phase 1 for it to matter. I mean, the gold, it's good, but there's not a lot of classes that can solo Rot Grip and Tinker as well, which is what you need to do to make that gold farm worth it. Basically, Hunters, I think, are the only ones who can solo all of that in phase 1.
Hunters.
Yeah. The other use that the blade has is it was used a lot in the higher end guilds doing big AoE pulls in AQ with flame strikes and stuff like that. So it does have more use in actual raid settings. And I think trying to stop people from getting that just nerfs casters even more in a melee favored game. I'm hoping that they're not trying to make it harder to kill Princess. I don't think that's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, it has a proc per instance of damage. So, on the really large AoE pulls, it's pretty crazy how much mana it can return.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm hoping their other fixes for the mage thing is enough, or they do them well enough that also stopping them from getting the blade isn't required.
Yeah, and look, if they're trying to stop that, it's not really going to work anyway, because all they need to do is just bring a friend with them to help them. You know, like look at Handed Hodge. Like, how many people did we farm Hodge for? Tito, like, I know I've helped farm maybe 2 or 3 of them for warriors in our guild, warriors and rogues. Yeah. So they'll just bring a friend.
Jay's on fire in Twitch chat, pointing out a few things Alenia's sort of signing off on as well. And Jay's mentioning that we talked about the Blackstone ring, but he thinks that'll be obsolete now with AV Exalted being available at launch. Alenia, you're co-signing that one. Tito co-signs, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. And he's backing me up on my thing where I was like, I swear I saw videos of bots outside Moradon. He's saying bots would go into Moradon for the herbs and the mines. So that's interesting to know. If that's spot on. I'll have to look that one up after this. Look, guys.
Imagine if Jay joins the call.
He should. I don't know. I think he's actually, I think he's babysitting tonight, so he can only listen in, which is all good.
He gets a pass.
Look, guys, we'll move on. That's kind of it for that data mining again leak. Let's talk about some of the stuff that's happened recently, and we got a really big blue post that came out today that talked again, like Tito mentioned. You know, the language that's being used in these Season of Mastery blue posts. The subtlety of the language is something I've not seen from Blizzard press releases of late. They definitely feel a bit more, just slightly more relaxed, slightly more human. You know, I've been very critical of the wording and the interaction of the communications team in the past. And again, credit where credit is due. I jumped on the Discord today and said, this is really well written. Like, I like the vibe that they're going with here and how they're talking to us. They basically said today that they're going to revise everything that we just tested over the last few days in Molten Core. Now, it was only like, you know, a day or two of testing or whatever, but, Onyxia and Molten Core was tested. We did a countdown run. We'll talk about that really soon. But everything that we tested is going to be changed yet again. And they've basically said that they know that, you know, just changing health pools might not necessarily be the answer. You know, hint, hint, is that maybe getting at armor changes and things like that. We'll get stuck into that very soon.
Please.
Yeah, please. But it's really fun to hear that this wasn't just, we doubled their health pools. Here's a mechanic or two that, you know, was in fucking 1.1 or whatever. Go have fun. We're not touching the game ever again from here. You know, we blitzed through it in a couple of days. They watched, they took notes, they reviewed the logs, and they've gone, you know what? Not quite my tempo. Let's go back to the drawing board and do something different, which, you know, I think it's great that they're trying, because there was already feedback coming back from people from that testing going, yeah, I mean, it was fun, but I'm not sure if that's quite it. You know, what can we kind of get here to find a happy medium? I'll open it up to the floor again, guys, and just say, we'll take you all the way back to, all of 5 days ago. You know, I did a countdown run at the last second to put something together with about 15, 20 countdown fans and about 20 pugs. You know, we went through there. We dropped half of Molten Core before basically everyone had to go to bed. We had 2 wipes. One was a silly butt pull in Gar's room, which I don't really count that. We wiped once to Shaz and then downed him on the next attempt. Really, really positive, really solid run. Everyone was happy. We literally only stopped because it was getting so late at night. I was happy with what I saw. It felt like more epic, but again, it was just larger health pools. Still, someone will have to correct me. I still don't know if the trash had their health buffed or not. That seems to be like jury's out on that. I don't know. You guys can tell me. But, Tito, I'll throw it to you and just You've pawned. You've done porn. You've poured over. Yeah, you've poured over a lot of the logs. You've watched a bunch of streams. You've kept an eye on this MC testing because you're keen as. Tell me what you saw and what you thought of what they gave us.
Sorry.
You're right.
My daughter walking in here with her.
No, it's all good. Take your time.
Yeah, we've got, it's kind of no real changes. I mean, there's been changes to the health pool and all these kind of things. But looking at the logs, looking at performance, looking at the meters, there's nothing different, nothing new there really. I think with the extended, kills, increasing the health means the kill time's longer, which just means that all my hopes for having the extra debuff slots that allow the other classes to kind of have a go is just nullified because they so quick, and then it's still warriors and rogues on top. So, I'm really hopeful that they do make some more changes, like maybe do the 50% health, but add armor so that that'll buff the casters a bit. I mean, the warriors and rogues and stuff will still have ways to get around it, with IEA being more required and people actually running with annihilators or bashgooders or, I forget what the other one is, from UBRS. So I think it's, they really haven't done enough, and they need to look into it with those resistances and, maybe other mechanics. I know a couple of friends who kind of went in there, had a crack, and they came out and they're just like, yeah, look, this has sealed the deal for me. I'm done with WoW. I was interested, but it's just going to be exactly the same all over again. So I am hopeful that they are having another look at it and going back in on it, and hopefully take some more time, take an extra month or 2 or 3 and actually figure out a way to make it a fresh experience.
Hunk and Alenia, I'm basically going to ask you the same questions of what did you think of what you saw. Hunk, I'll start with you because I actually just want to push you a little bit more down the path of something that Tito was just getting at, because I want to know more about this as a filthy casual. I can somewhat wrap my head around the concept, but, the guys in the Discord again were discussing today about, as Tito's alluded to, if we start actually staring at the armor and putting the health to one side, going, is there a way in which we can not necessarily double the health pool, but maybe raise the health pool, but then also start raising armor? Because obviously a double health pool, as Tito said too, is you're hurting casters in terms of stretching mana pools, whereas the melee just continue to sit there and go nuts. Whereas if you start to affect armor, what you want to do is you want to hit this happy medium of challenging casters and melee. Is that right? Like, how does armor start to fuck with the melee a little bit? Talk to me.
Yeah, like Tito's spot on. It'll by using like the armor to balance the DPS of the physical damage classes on the boss, they can at least prevent them from, on the longer fights, say like in Molten Core, to be things like Ragnaros and Golmag, where the casters could be in danger of running out of mana if the fight's go on for long enough. It could actually balance out their damage a little bit. Of course, like, it'd have to be a boss-by-boss decision, not just a blanket thing, because you also run the risk that if the fights are quicker and over before the casters run out of mana, they're just going to be doing flat-out more DPS while they've got mana than the physical damage classes. So, I don't know. It's an interesting
dynamic. I don't have a problem
dynamic
with that, personally.
No, I don't either, but they need to, they can use the armor as, a way to balance that. It's like on a fight that's meant to go long and meant to be a bit of a marathon, like say Golmag. You'd give Golmag high armor, but on a fight that's kind of like a bit more of a race, like something you want to get down fairly quickly, like say like Major Domo or something like that, you could have lower armor.
Alenia, just before I ask you about what you thought in general, Efefe has just thrown in Twitch chat the following. I think they should buff bosses' attack damage and maybe add a little armor and new mechanics, but not the health pool. It's funny how no one ever really talks about the attack damage, but I'm guessing that might be, people don't say make them hit harder because you can already kind of get one shot by, well, not necessarily one shot, but bosses already hit hard, right? Like, is it the case that it might be too much if we get them hitting harder?
That sentence just made me shriek on the inside as someone that's participating in the road to Ragnaros and is going to be healing. It's like, no, please, for the love of God, no. We announced that we were going to do this on Fresh before it was called a Season of Mastery, and then Blizzard came out and said, "Oh, we're going to tweak these a little bit." And we're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, they'll be fine." And now this post came out that it's like, "Oh, we're going to make some significant changes because it's too easy." We're all in the back going, "No, please, don't do it to us."
Not too easy for us.
Do you know the thing I really like about it though? We're talking about what they could do to, the bosses and the trash in in the instance. But what I'm really looking forward to is what the players are going to come back with. What's going to be the answer to all this shit? What are going to be the new plays? That's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
It's also so hard to gauge in a way because they gave us so many consumables and everyone was in effectively pre-bis. I know the sweaties were out there picking apart a lot of the gear that the classes got, saying, well, technically it's not pre-bis because I'd rather have this sword and that, fucking chest piece and blah, blah, blah. But it was Tito. Tito. It was pretty fucking close, wasn't it, Tito?
Sorry, I missed that.
I was just saying it wasn't exactly communal gear. They got reasonably close to pre-biz.
Yeah, well, look, Warriors were able to hit 6% hit. Any Rogues or Tauren or, other races on the other side, whatever, no one cares about those. But, anyone without the weapon mastery built into their race wasn't able to hit cap. So it wasn't bad. It was pretty bad, to be honest. It wasn't really bad.
well, Belshazzar's backing you up because you guys are warriors, and he's saying the warrior gear was fucked.
Yeah, it was pretty messy. The Alliance side, I know they had their racials covered, but the Horde side, I think both sides didn't have their racials covered, didn't have enough hit chance to hit cap. There was missing a lot of stuff. In my DPS gear on the beta, I'm running a lot of plus defense, which is just... Yeah, it's pointless. And so much of the gear you're able to get in pre-bis is way better than that. So it's really not a good look outside of maybe the first week of raiding. It was pretty bad for melee anyway.
Well, gear aside, we got a shitload of consumables, all the flasks you could ever ask for, blah, 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 blah. And as I say, I think it was reasonably good gear for all 40 people in the raid to have it on, what would be your first attempt at MC or whatever. And everyone popping and chugging flasks, and particularly mana users chugging their flasks for that, 2000 mana potion effectively. It's an odd one where they've asked us to test this new stuff, different health pools and everything. But we're kind of, sort of, maybe not really, but yes, in a way, cheesing it. Talk to me about how you guys feel about the testing environment in and of itself when you got so much of that stuff at your command.
I think a good enough... go on.
Doesn't it make kind of sense that if they want to see if we're going to cheese it in the instance, and they want to see us doing our worst per se with all the flasks and consumes that are available, that they would make them available to us so we would just go nuts on it, and then they can just assess what that actually looks like in the instance.
Yeah, good point.
I think you can read between the lines well enough if you know what you're looking at in a log, and I would hope that those programmers do. So, yeah.
I like to think of that game that shall not be named on a WoW podcast, where the developer said they used the normal version of a raid to see how players cheese the raid, and then when they create the savage version of the raid, they specifically design it to not be cheesed and to mess with the players. So that's a good way of looking at Season of Mastery. Find out how people have been cheesing them in the past, give them the opportunity in testing to cheese it as much as they can, and then make changes for anti-cheese, kind of. I don't know.
Why is it the game that shall not be named now?
There's been, I know there's some lovely people in our community who don't necessarily like all the Final Fantasy talk in WoW-related content.
I know. We did like 2 podcasts on it, and people were like, "Yeah."
People are still complaining in the Discord.
To bring it back a little bit on that, on you're talking about buffing the damage and how healers were abusing the mana potions. I think buffing the damage wouldn't necessarily be a great idea. Sure, the hardcore players need the damage buffed, but if it's too buffed, the whole casual base just lose because the healers aren't good enough. So yeah, I don't think the damage really needs to get buffed. It'll hurt too many players just for the sake of helping the top 1% of players.
I really disagree with the idea of like damage, increasing the attack damage of bosses, but there's a lot of like mechanics that could be changed, not necessarily damage-based mechanics that would make fights considerably more difficult. Even just like, like things like curses on Lucifron, just the duration, the frequency that they go out. Like, Gehenna's is like Rain of Fire. Like, instead of just add another cast, so there's 2 areas of fire.
Or make it wider.
Yeah, I like the idea of having him cast 2, or give all the mobs the ability to cast the Rain of Fire, and then there's 3 going out. Like, kind of get crazy with it. And that's putting it on everybody in the raid. It's not specifically like making any one person's job more difficult. It's making everyone's job more difficult. I like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
40-person raid sounds like a Saturday night at your place, right, Hunk?
Oh, yeah, according to Dan Murphy's.
The other thing
sorry, go Tino.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that may make it more required to. It makes me think of something that Ale said, where he said that his whole guild was running Blackwing Lair in their fire resist gear, just because it meant less downtime for the healers and things were still dying fast. So maybe that becomes required. You're in the fire dungeon. Just wear a little bit of fire resistance the whole time, so that when those extra mechanics are going out, you are resisting a bit more damage. It's not as, I think there's ways around it. It changes gameplay a little bit, changes gearing a bit. I think something like that.
Like, I would love it. Like, if you say, like, after, like, I keep using Gehenna's as an example because it's one that you can easily make more difficult just by tweaking the existing mechanics. But you could take Gehenna's and it could go from a fight where people are like, 99 on Gehenna's because we stacked the ads and cleaved them and I got good crit RNG. I got my 99, to being like, you may have gotten a 99 pars, but you took, 50,000 damage in that fight because you refused to get out of the fire and you owe your healers an apology. I'd actually like to see people praised for doing mechanics, not just getting passes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this while playing Final Fantasy. Sorry, Elenia, I'll throw it to you in 1 second. You and I talked about this, Hunk, the other day, while playing Final Fantasy, going, wouldn't it be interesting if we actually started to skew the community towards slapping people on the back for doing the mechanics correctly and taking, like you're saying, less damage, not being a burden on your healers, not being a fuckwit, as opposed to that mage that stands still, does nothing, just pumps and goes, look at my fucking 99, dickheads. Like, it would be good to weirdly shift the culture back in time to be like, we praise the Swiss Army knife player that is completely flexible in an on-the-fly moment and not just there in fucking Terminator mode to fucking destroy. But yeah.
Get something like Baron. Like, what if the bomb had twice the radius and he cast, say, 5 of them at one time? So, you'd have to do the old strat of pulling him back in the guard's room and you need to have 5 people like split to different areas of the room. And you need to coordinate that dynamically.
Yeah, that's something that North threw out there as well, which I think is really intriguing too. Yeah. Elenia, I'm so sorry. You were going to say something a little bit ago.
Yeah, I'm just listening to Hunk going, what if they do this? It's like make raid-wide damage, fire damage, and let's make him not just throw out like one bomb on Baron. Let me throw out 5. And as a healer, and someone's going to be doing like hardcore, I'm just like, I'm in the corner with my, with my hands over my head, just rocking back and forth.
I want the raid to die horribly. I want people to wipe and die horribly.
I want to watch. I want to watch a car crash on Road to Rag, that's for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I've got to admit,
car crash, it.
Like I said, I haven't been that involved with the hardcore community over the last couple of years, but I've found myself over the last couple of weeks, my eyes straying to, there's a YouTube channel now that does like the highlights and the clips of the deaths and near misses. And I've been watching a few of those videos and enjoying them. But just on that note, Elenia, like, how's it going to work? Like I know it's not just one raid necessarily doing the Road to Rag, but like people are going to die. What happens when your main tank and off tank drop on a fight, when you're fighting fucking Gar or something, and now it's like, oh shit, well, what do we do? Like, are there people on the bench fucking ready and waiting to go, or how's it going to work?
We don't know, and that is the bottom line. We have a lot of people theory crafting what it might look like and how to allow for contingencies. But at the end of the day, if you're mortal and you only have one life, and we lose both of the tanks, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, you'd almost need like 2 backups for every fucking position, because like you're going to lose people, and it's going to be tragic and wonderful all at the same time.
The raid composition is going to be pretty different, I think, to a standard raid composition. I think that's probably the most that I would say about that. You probably see multiple backup tanks for the reason that you were saying, and probably an excessive amount of healers as well.
It is going to be some of the best WoW content ever produced, I reckon, this race around.
100%.
It's going to be amazing.
There'll be a lot of waiting for recklessness, of waiting for cooldowns. Even if you have to wait, I think there's going to be that much planning going on in that time. It won't be boring sitting around waiting. You're just going to have to do so much preparation. I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
The moment I cannot fucking wait for is when you separate, the cowards from the brave, where there's going to be an awkward moment halfway through a pool, probably trash, who knows, whatever, maybe probably a boss. Sorry, what am I saying? But like where you're not sure, and guaranteed 4 or 5 people are just going to run for the door. Just go, fucking, that's a wipe. See you later. I'm not having a bar of this. And maybe if they'd stayed, you would have made it. I don't know. It's going to be a very awkward, like, elevator ride together after that one. Do you know what I mean?
We have a few people in the community that are a little bit famous for their role in like disappearing when the shit hits the fan in a dungeon.
Hey, no bubble hearth allowed, right? No bubble hearth allowed in the rules.
No bubble hearth allowed. No, you can't use bubble hearth. Yeah.
But just the fucking
that's to be out.
The bolt for the
divine
front
intervention.
Door.
I'm just waiting for the moment where I have to DI a tank and like sacrifice my paladin.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
Oh,
that's going to be a big moment.
You'd be a legend forever, though, if it was like the last rag and you sacrificed yourself and you go down, but the tank or whatever gets the last hit and rag dies. I don't know.
It's going to happen so much
more valuable.
But then he's DI'd and like someone else has got the aggro, and then the whole raid starts wiping anyway, and the only one left is the tank. That's probably
Guys, I'll move us on to Onyxia, just a light note on Onyxia, because people were talking about how, the mechanic that was, introduced, was what the fireballs now, I think there's a conflagrate and, a fireball dazes you or some shit. You guys might know more about this, like things people were saying, oh yeah, that's cool, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that. I didn't really raid much beforehand, but it sounds good. New abilities or old abilities reintroduced sounds good to me.
I wish she deep breathed more.
Yes.
It's a shame that, like every time in Classic when we do Onyxia and there was a deep breath, we would lose half the raid because people just didn't expect it and had no idea how to deal with it. It was quite funny. And that's just a mechanic you don't see. It'd be nice if she deep breathed, at set HP percentages in the air phase. Same with Ragnaros and the Suns. One Suns phase at 50% or something.
Yeah, that's what I want to see is boss, because I want to see boss mechanics at percentages instead of times. I know I mentioned that in the Discord before, and there was a few people saying, no, I like that I can out DPS the mechanics. I think just put up percentage and everyone deals with the mechanics and it's not a big deal.
I do kind of like that as a reward for getting gear, being able to skip past mechanics. I do like that. But I don't necessarily like it in like the phase that the content is current in until like towards the end.
Gear's like not that impactful that for that to be realistic. I don't think a realistic expectation, because there will always be people who are good enough to beat the mechanics in the first phase.
That is true, yeah.
There will always be people who just blast through it. So I think you just have to have it at percentage bases. Otherwise, that's just my opinion.
Yes, for every us, there is a bunning.
Guys, just
sorry,
go Alenia.
It's a question. Like, this is going to be a silly question because every time that I've done Rag, like we've killed him before Submerge, but like if the suns come up, can they come up multiple times?
Yeah, they can. They can. The first time I killed Rag and actual vanilla, we went through 2 suns phases.
Oh, great.
And we had like 3 people left and he was at 1% or something when we killed him.
Oh my
The
god.
Suns also mana burn with their AoE.
Of course they do. Of course
They are
do.
a really,
Oh
really
my
nasty
God.
mechanic.
Oh.
that
Joke's
everyone
on them.
sees.
The Boomkin didn't have any mana to burn.
I'm unsubscribing.
In phase 5, I was actually part of a couple of MCs where the guilds were actually not able to do a Suns phase ever. The only way they killed Rag is if they out DPS'd it, which I thought was kind of, I don't know if it was sad or interesting or what, but
We never
like
did
it was
Suns
just
phase in Grim,
reattempt until you could beat the Suns phase, otherwise you didn't kill Rag.
We never did a Suns phase in Grim. We could always DPS past it from like the word go. From like our
Yeah, that's
first
right.
raid.
Yeah, I never saw it. I only ever saw it in this pug, and no one was able to deal with it in this group. It was actually not even a pug; it was a guild. It was just a very casual guild who they couldn't cope through a Suns phase.
And you kind of feel like if they can't get the damage output to beat the Suns phase, beat the timer of the Suns phase, the minute and a half, they're probably going to really struggle with it because it's the only part of the fight that's really difficult.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't get the Rag loot if you can't do it. I mean,
I say that as someone
who never did a Suns phase successfully. But I'm fine with that. Like,
It's the last boss of the
let us
instance,
figure
and
it
it's
out
such a-
and get the loot. Yeah.
It's a shame it's not like at least somewhat challenging. Sorry, Elenia. I know that you're got your thumb in your mouth, rocking backwards and forwards right now. She's onto her
I'm
second
calling my
bottle of wine.
therapist as we speak.
It's going to be a 120 strong roster for
It's been
Road to
built
Rag,
on a
I think.
podcast.
Guys, let me read this sentence out to you from today's blue post that we've sort of been alluding to every now and again. And we talked about the language that we liked the sound of. And I think this is the most pertinent sort of third of the post. And I'll read it to you verbatim right now. As we watched beta testers in-game and listened to their reactions to our changes and restorations, it confirmed what we already thought going into this test. Merely raising mob health and restoring a few removed mechanics was not hitting the mark that we wanted for a season focused on faster progression and more challenging content. As a result, with the next upcoming beta build, we're making some significant adjustments to almost every encounter in Molten Core and Nixia's Lair. To be clear, we don't intend these or any future changes we make to Season of Mastery raid encounters to increase the difficulty of the content to a point where experienced, prepared raid groups will have to wipe for days or weeks to progress on it. Just hanging on those last few words, I want to ask you guys the same question that I put to North, Marky Mark, and FarQ in the podcast that I just published today. I'm really intrigued by this concept recently that I've not given much thought to in the past. I've talked about this on the show before where I really pushed for like a tougher Karazhan with Ale, during the TBC beta, saying, why don't we start challenging the players, blah, 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 who wants a snooze fest? And I've sort of sat back a little bit and come to really think harder on the answers that I would get in reply from people like Defcamp and Melderon, where they were like, no, there's an element of Classic that is supposed to be easy because it is that chill hang vibe that is part of the appeal of the game. Now, I really have been thinking about this a lot lately, and the analogy I gave in the more recent podcast was one of golf. And, I would love to hear the analogies that you guys come up with to sort of challenge this. There might be a better one out there, but I said, we'd like to think that we want to go out there and play Augusta and hit 30 balls in the water and then realize that that's not actually the challenge that we wanted. What you probably more than often want is to hit the course with the guys and gals, get on the beers, not be too terribly challenged by the public fucking offering in front of you and go nuts. Whereas WoW Classic was a bit more of a putt-putt course, and it's like, well, this isn't kind of quite what we wanted. Is there an element of this blue post where they're saying, look, we don't want you wiping for weeks on progression, that you enjoy hearing? Because do you think to a certain extent that whether we like to admit it or not, and as we look at what's happening in TBC Phase 2 right now with progression, in 2021, is WoW Classic sort of more supposed to be that easy, chill vibe so we can kick back and hang as opposed to pushing content? What do you guys think?
I can see that argument. I can respect that. Yeah, I can see where he's coming from. I just think, I mean, it does have that kind of like chill vibe, but I mean, you invest a lot of time in that game when you play it. Farming consumables, gold, all that sort of stuff already. It's kind of nice, like, if we're going to be repeating the content again, to have something that makes it a little different, you know?
Yeah, I think there's something a bit absurd about a 35-second boss fight, which is what Classic is full of. So it's not that they need to make them, exactly. It's not that they need to make them like, mythic levels of, you got to do, the full Rain Man math thing in your head to make it out without dying. They just need to make it where there's a bit of mechanics, there's a bit of engagement, and you can't just like zone out for 30 seconds, long blink and you open your eyes and there's loot. It's just, there's a big middle ground there where that they can adjust some things and make it where, it's a 2.5 minute fight. You have to think about, how you're gearing and how you're, looking at health and making sure you're not going to die to the mechanics and stuff like that, instead of just running in full leather or, no health gear and just blinking and having loot drop out. There's a lot to play with there without making it too hard for the casuals and without having it be too easy for the hardcore people to, feel like they can just do it without thinking.
Alenia?
I'm glad they don't want to make it obnoxious because, I mean, compared to, say, like the modern day retail raids, I mean, let's face it, like the vanilla raids, they're not, they're not that sophisticated. So they're going to be fairly limited in what they can actually do to the raid to make it a more challenging and yet still enjoyable experience. I'm glad that the language they're using is that they don't want to make it, a grind for the sake of turning it into a grind, if that makes any sense, because otherwise everyone's going to hate doing it. But, tuning it a little bit, making it a bit harder.
To be fair to retail, I guess it would be better to say, I mean, you can basically choose your difficulty, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And choosing your difficulty was something that I got wrong with Season of Mastery. I had tipped, I was a betting man throwing my tip in the ring saying, I think they're just going to do, a fucking, what's the word for it in TBC? Heroic. Heroic versions of raids, was what I thought was coming. That's not the case now. We know that, but, they didn't go that route. I agree with you guys. Tito, I think you're right in that, and Hunk and Ellen, I think something had to be done. I think it was too much of a walk in the park. But I have slightly dialed back how much we asked to be pushed, because I would ask all of you this now. When you do look at TBC Phase 2, and Tito, I think you're the only one of us, Eleni, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, you're the only one of us, Tito, who's still regularly playing TBC. Sorry, Eleni, you're still playing. Are you still raiding?
I've got raid on this Saturday, actually. Yes.
Oh, okay, so my bad. Okay. Yes. All right, fantastic. When you look at what's happening with Kael'thas and Vash right now in TBC, and look, it seems to be the case that players are starting to slightly walk away from TBC. Guilds are really struggling to put teams together from what the subreddit's saying. And part of the reason for that does seem to be the challenge in an odd way. Do you feel like if the Classic team went back and did something to Season of Mastery, like MC, BWL and everything, became something along the lines of your Vash and Kael encounters leveled of difficulty, do you think that's the line, that's weirdly too far?
I think those fights are really fun, but I think there's something about a 15-minute fight or, a 12-minute fight and then having to do the full, when you wipe, having to go through it all again is just a little bit much, personally. It's just such a long fight that you have to go through just to do it all over again and again. It's more length of time for me than anything. I actually like that they're difficult and they're hard to do, and they're, to me, some of the funnest parts of TBC. It's not why I'm kind of a bit over TBC. but I think it's more to do with the game systems than the boss fights personally. That being said, I have knocked down those bosses, so maybe, you know, unconsciously I am just like, someone, I'm not feeling good. I'm not killing them.
How about you other two?
I don't mind a short and sharp fight, you know, a hard, sharp fight. You know, if you wipe, it's not a huge time investment to go back and restart it. And I think that, that holds true regardless of, which version of WoW you're in. The longer fights, when you're getting into 10 or 15 minutes and you make one mistake and then you have to start again, are just a lesson in frustration sometimes and, far less enjoyable. So, you know, in terms of making it like harder, yes, introducing content or difficulties that are going to like drag out a fight excessively, then that would be a hard no from me. I don't think I'd sign up for that.
Yeah, I think 3 to 8 minutes is a good range. The 30-second, 20-second fights from Classic are just laughable. And, some of the longer fights in TBC are a bit much.
Yeah, but again, I guess if we're even talking, I don't know, it just depends. If we're talking 5-minute fights or whatever in Season of Mastery, like the cockeyed look from Boomkins, Shadow Priests, Red Paladins, if, you know, people are going to be playing them at what rate, we don't know. But I think that's the next sort of unspoken thing that's happening here is, you know, the no one at Blizzard's necessarily talking about it, but is there anything that can be done about the meme specs? We shall see. I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's a very, very tricky one. Look, guys, I don't want to go and keep you all night, so we might wind it up here. I just want to say one last point before we leave. And you guys feel free to comment about this. If you would like. I'm not sure if you've been playing much of the Season of Mastery beta in the last couple of days. I've been playing a bit of it since they basically brought on the Insta-60 character templates. I've been doing a lot of Battlegrounds and I've been trying to figure out Hunter or Mage, which one do I feel more comfortable with in a Battleground, which one do I want to be my main, because I will be leveling both of them. As you guys have heard, in the Battlegrounds, Blizzard made a little bit of a boo-boo in bringing in the petrification flasks, and everyone was chugging them and popping them in Battlegrounds like it was going out of fashion. I saw this so much, I just want to say the following. If you chugged flasks of petrification in a Battleground, you are a fucking coward. I loathe you. I hope you go to there's an 8th circle of hell in which you can reside when your time in this world is done. You're the worst person. Oh my God. Hunk listened live to me fight a warlock the other night. And look,
that's
again,
right.
Yeah, I am not the world's
Every person listening to this right now is a scumbag.
You scum sucking fucking piece of shit.
You all get it. We know. Confess.
I didn't pop one. Now listen to me. I fought this warlock and Hunk listened. I was so fucking angry. The fucking prick. Basically, they decide when they want to put the fight on pause. They just use the flask, and like he would just sit there. And normally I would walk away from them. That was the play. If they used one, you just walked away and go and find another fight. This one time I was so sick of it. He was on he had 50 fucking health left or something. And I was like, I'm just going to sit here and wait this prick out. Fuck him. And he would just right click it off and then throw a curse on me quickly and then use it again. And I couldn't react quickly enough because I was he'd be sitting there for 30 seconds and I don't know when he's going to go. So I'd half move my eyes off the screen and I'd be like, no, I missed him. And he did it 3 times and then he fucking killed me and I'm the worst player in the world and I hated everyone.
Get good, Josh.
But seriously, get good, Josh. But also if you use Flask of Petrification, you're a fucking loser and I hate you.
You're not the worst player in the world. You were just, there's no... anyone would have died to that. You were just too angry to run away.
That was disgusting.
I'm so bitter. I'm so bitter.
Play, yeah.
At least I can laugh
mad.
about it tongue in cheek. But yeah, it was very remiss of Blizz to leave that in. I'm glad that they got on it reasonably quickly and those were taken out today. There was one stage where I stared out at mid and there were 5 fucking Horde players frozen like statues because they'd all popped one. I'm just like, you fucking idiots. This is ridiculous. It was fucking Madame Tussauds. It was so silly. But anyway,
it is hilarious.
Look,
I am just living for salty Josh right now.
Oh, this is me being well behaved. I am the saltiest PvP player. I'm getting better. I'm getting better at not being salty because like I'm actually figuring out mildly how to play my hunter now. So now if I die, I just get over it and be like, look, I got in melee, whatever. They zerged me down. I deserved it. As opposed to before when I was just shit fucking C-bombing everywhere and just Patricia was just looking at me going, you need to stop playing that game. But look, guys, we'll leave it there, I think, and I'll let you go have your dinner. Thank you so much, everyone. If we've left anything on the table, please, by all means, let me know. But thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute delight and a pleasure. Elenia, please. Elenia, you've got something else very special to shout out in the Chopper Drive, don't you? Please let people know what's going on with that and where they can find you and all the details.
Yeah, we've got the Chopper Drive coming up. Those of you that don't know what that is, it's a in-game fundraiser where we get together in retail and cruise across a given route on our choppers and hogs. It's in the name of fundraising for Beyond Blue, which is an organisation that provides mental health support to people that are suffering from anxiety and depression. This is the third year that Carpe Diem, our guild, is doing it. You don't have to donate to join. We'd like to see just bodies on the ground, whether you're Horde or Alliance. We're going to be doing that on the 6th of November on Kazgaroth. And once again, if you want to jump on my Twitter, I'll have links to the Discord on there. But we'd love to see plenty of you there. We normally have some guild groups that come as well. Everyone's welcome to come along. Just have a good time. We'll be streaming it. We'll be doing some shenanigans, and hopefully everyone's going to have a really good time. Absolutely. That's 6th of November, Australia time, yeah? Yeah, we've got a image on the Chopper Drive Discord, which I've got linked on my Twitter, and that has actually got the local times for a lot of common areas, including in North America and Europe. Sweet as. Everyone, please do get behind that. Look, it's an incredibly important cause. These guys, as Lenny said, it's the third time. They do it annually for the last 3 years. Great group of people behind it. I throw my full support behind this. That's why I've sort of asked Lenia to go out of her way and shout this out now. Please do take the time to at least check it out. Get involved if you can. It's near and dear to our hearts here at Countdown to Classic. And, I think, I really cheer you guys on, Lenia, for doing that. Good on you. And I hope it goes great. Oh, we're going to have a great time, and we really hope everyone jumps in and has a blast with us. Very good. Tito, mate, it's been too long between drinks for you on the show. Thank you so much. And thank you to the missus for letting us borrow you tonight, mate. You've been great.
Yeah, cheers. One last thing before I go. Yeah. Is please, I just hope that they remove 5 trash packs from every raid for season mastery. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that maybe on the next one on a bit of a wish list on changes we haven't seen yet. Because I think definitely, AQ speaks for itself that if they came out and said, look, we've deleted 20% of the trash in AQ, who's going to be like, oh, what the fuck? Where's my classic, bro?
Look, we've deleted AQ40.
Look, there's always things to talk about, whether it's this season or the next season. I think it's really great that we've got this little bit of a open avenue to a drawing board, and people are starting to get a little bit imaginative with what we could do with this thing. So that's fantastic. Look, Hunk, mate, thank you as well to you. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for recounting the story of the gift I gave you.
That was a pleasure, mate. Thank you for the gift.
It's my pleasure. You earned it, mate.
I just wanted to add one little thing regarding the longer raid fights, if I could.
Sure.
And sorry to keep everyone, but it's not so much the longer fights that bother me. It's how they would be unengaging currently if they were stretched out. Like, if you went from like a 3-minute Ebon Rock to a 10-minute Ebon Rock, it doesn't really enhance the player experience. It just wastes people's time. Phase 1 of Kel'Thuzad is already one of the most boring bits of, the game. I don't think we want to add that to like every boss fight by just stretching them out without adding anything there that enhances like gameplay for the players to do. Just want to add
absolutely. That. Yeah, I agree.
Well said. All right, mate. Well, look, we'll go out on that note. And look, I'm sure it's not the last time we'll hear from you guys on Season of Mastery. As you've all heard on the podcast, guys, I'm very excited for Season of Mastery. That's why I'm making so much content in relation to it. I've been hanging out for some time now. I understand where people are coming from, but it's rough to hear the amount of people that keep asking the question of who is Season of Mastery for? Well, it's for me and people like me, and I'm really excited. So I'll keep making content about it. I know that there are maybe not the largest player base out there pumped for it, but there are plenty of people pumped for it. So thanks for listening. We'll keep going with it, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Wow.
Have fun, everyone. Don't die.
Wow, don't die. That's Selenia's advice of going out with. All right.
Hopefully she follows her own advice.
No dying in Molten Core.